Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a tantalizing and, let's be honest, slightly crazy premise, the 1,000-mile cheap scooter challenge. I mean, the romance of the open road sounds absolutely amazing, right? But as we start digging into the real-world data, the actual service manuals, and some wild stories from everyday riders, that beautiful vision pretty quickly collides with some, well, harsh mechanical realities. Okay, let's dive into this by posing our core feasibility question right out of the gate. Can a budget $1,500 scooter actually survive a 1,000-mile road trip across the country? It's a question that sparks some intense debate across riding communities. We're going to look at the exact mechanical limits of these machines, the frankly bizarre legal hurdles you'll face on the road, and the sheer grit required to keep two tiny wheels turning over that kind of massive distance. So, to really understand the machine itself, we first have to face the harsh reality of the budget scooter market. On a popular Reddit community for scooter enthusiasts, one rider bought a super cheap model just hoping it would run until winter, completely ignoring everyone's advice to aim higher. And he ended up sharing a hard-learned lesson. To quote him directly, "I learned firsthand, buy cheap, buy twice." Another rider chimed in with a similar, very common mantra, buy once, cry once. See, when you're looking at a 1,000-mile trip, the initial price tag of your scooter is going to directly dictate your schedule. Basically, how much time you actually spend riding versus how much time you spend broken down on the shoulder of the road. But let's say you ignore that advice. You decide to take a cheap scooter on a massive trip anyway. Well, here is the chaotic reality you are signing up for. We're talking about being legally banned from the fastest roads, dealing with machinery that literally vibrates itself apart, organizing these bizarre logistical support systems like chase vans, and of course becoming intimately familiar with roadside repairs. So let's break down exactly why these little machines are so prone to this kind of absolute chaos. Honestly, it all comes down to manufacturing. Based on community consensus, there's just a massive divide in the scooter world. On one hand, mainland Chinese scooters are incredibly affordable, but they really often lack strict quality control. In fact, because they're so prone to issues, a lot of professional mechanics flat out refuse to work on them. Now, on the other hand, you have Japanese and Taiwanese factories, brands like Yamaha, Honda, and Sim. These machines have incredibly strict quality controls and are highly reliable. The consensus is crystal clear here. A cheap, imported budget scooter can be a really fun toy, but only if you're a hands-on mechanic who actually loves turning a wrench. If you want a ride that's both cheap and reliable for a long haul, you're honestly much better off just buying a used name brand scooter. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the maintenance schedule perfectly frames our 1,000-mile challenge. Looking at this data from Lookover Powersports, which is a platform that builds service intervals based on actual OEM shop manuals, just check out that first task. Scooters require an engine oil change every 1,000 to 4,000 miles, depending on the engine size. That means if you take a smaller budget scooter on a 1,000-mile trip, you are hitting a major, mandatory service interval exactly at the end of your journey, or realistically, maybe even right in the middle of it. These aren't like modern cars where you can just drive 10,000 miles and totally forget about it. And because these tiny engines run at such high RPMs, the continuous vibration is just relentless. We actually dug into a Facebook discussion where riders talked about taking their scooters on trips over just 100 miles. And let me tell you, their survival kit is intense. You absolutely must carry a small electric tire inflator, hex keys, pliers, a spare spark plug, and a tire repair kit. Oh, and you also have to check your bolts daily, or even every 30 to 40 miles, and use Loctite. That's a heavy-duty thread-locking adhesive, and you need it just to stop the bolts from vibrating right out of the frame. One experienced rider even offered this absolute genius tip. If you're crossing the country on a crappy scooter, order any part you think you might need ahead of time and have it shipped to a locker in the next closest town. But hey, let's say you've wrenched all your bolts super tight and your maintenance is absolutely flawless. Well, you still have a massive logistical nightmare on your hands: the route itself. See, the law actively works against you. Here in the US, mopeds, small scooters, and other low-speed vehicles are generally prohibited from interstates and a lot of freeways. In fact, states like Virginia, Louisiana, and Connecticut explicitly ban them outright. This means you can't just set your GPS to the fastest, most direct route. Nope, you are legally forced onto secondary roads and back channels, which drastically increases the time and complexity of your journey. And, speaking of time, 19 miles per hour. Let's just sit with that number for a second. 19. If you attempt a cross-country trip on a low-power machine, this might very well be your actual cruising speed. In fact, 19 miles per hour is the exact speed a team on Reddit reported cruising out while attempting a cross-country journey on electric scooters. And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute absurdity and, frankly, the incredible dedication required for such an endeavor. Just to maintain that grueling 19-mile-per-hour pace, this Reddit team outlined their strategy. First, they ride the scooters while a poor, patient driver follows right behind them in a VW Chase van. Second, because the battery range is incredibly limited, they actually brought along 6 backup scooters so they can just swap them out when the batteries die. And finally, and this is the absolute chef's kiss of this whole crazy plan, they charge the dead electric scooters at night using a gas-powered generator. It's a hilarious testament to human stubbornness for sure, but it really highlights just how slow and complicated this challenge actually is. However, all this talk of incredibly slow speeds and meandering down back roads brings us to a much more serious conversation. When you're moving at a mere fraction of the speed of surrounding traffic on a tiny, lightweight vehicle, you are inherently vulnerable. We really have to look at the sobering reality of the safety factor when riding small engine vehicles out in the real world. To really grasp the true vulnerability of scooter riders, we can look at some hard data from the World Health Organization. In Thailand, which is considered the global epicenter for motorcycle and scooter deaths, an astounding 74.4% of traffic fatalities in 2016 were riders of motorized 2- and 3-wheelers. To put that into perspective, globally, that shares only about 28%. When small engine motorcycles and scooters are forced to share the road with much larger, significantly faster vehicles, the riders bear the absolute brunt of the danger. Grounding those statistics in reality, you can clearly see in heavy Thai traffic just how exposed riders are when navigating amidst a giant sea of moving metal. The WHO data points out that road traffic injuries kill millions at a young age globally. In Thailand specifically, young adults between 15 and 34 years old accounted for over 60% of all 2- and 3-wheeler deaths. This extreme vulnerability is exactly why organizations like the WHO push so incredibly hard for life-saving technologies like anti-lock braking systems, which prevent skidding during panic stops, to help reduce these tragic outcomes. If you're doing 1,000 miles on a cheap scooter, you have to be hyper-aware of this immense risk at literally all times. So, bringing all this evidence together, what is our final verdict on the 1,000-mile cheap scooter challenge? Well, it is absolutely possible. But the romance of the open road is heavily overshadowed by reality. You cannot just hop on, twist the throttle, and go. You must be part mechanic, ready to lock tight bolts and change oil mid-trip. You must be incredibly patient, willing to navigate around interstates at agonizingly slow speeds. And above all, you must be highly aware of the serious, documented safety risks of sharing the road with bigger vehicles on such a tiny frame. Which leaves us with one final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Knowing the rigorous maintenance schedule, the restrictive legal barriers, the potential for using chase vans and gas generators just to keep moving, and those very real safety vulnerabilities, do you have the wrenching skills, the patience, and the risk tolerance to try this yourself? It's a brilliant, chaotic adventure, but certainly not one for the faint of hearts. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep learning.